Fourth Wing is the thrilling first book in Thea Lane's new fantasy series following the cadets of Navarre's elite dragon riding squadron. Fans of strong female leads will love Violet, a scrappy former scribe who is unexpectedly forced to join the dangerous riders quadrant. Though initially outmatched in strength and skill, Violet's courage and resilience make her a compelling heroine. She fearlessly defends the underdog and forges unbreakable bonds with not just one, but two dragons. The cutthroat competition and lethal trials of dragon riding school make every page razor-sharp with tension. The unbonded cadets are particularly chilling villains, resenting Violet and scheming for her brutal demise. Their ruthless determination to kill her creates gripping fight scenes and life-or-death stakes. But the true highlight is the beautifully imagined dragons with unique powers. Seeing the bonds develop between dragon and rider is mesmerizing. Andarna and Ternanach have distinctive voices and personalities that leap off the page. With secret alliances, surprise powers manifesting, and simmering romantic tension, Fourth Wing delivers thrills and intrigue until the climactic ending. This is an addictive and masterfully crafted fantasy that leaves you desperate for the sequel. The Fourth Wing has me hooked. Chapter 1. Violet Sorrengail arrives at the Riders' Quadrant of Basgiath for training. She meets her roommate Rhiannon and squadmate Dane Atos. Violet struggles during training but is determined to survive and honor her late brother Brennan's memory. Chapter 2. Violet attends the traditional hike up the mountain behind Basgiath. She helps another cadet who is struggling and meets the imposing wing leader Xaden Riorson, son of the rebel leader who Violet believes caused her brother's death. Chapter 3. Violet attends her first training session and is challenged by Amber Mavis. She impresses Xaden by crossing the dangerous parapet walkway to return Amber's boot. Xaden later confronts Violet about her motivations for being at the quadrant. Chapter 4. Violet attends her first battle brief and learns about past attacks on the kingdom. Afterward, Dane walks Violet back to her room and tries to get to know her better, but she resists sharing about herself. Chapter 5. Violet begins training with her squad. She struggles during drills and spars with Xaden, who easily overpowers her. Her frustration grows as Xaden continues pointing out her weaknesses. Chapter 6. Violet wakes from a nightmare of her brother's death. During training, she's defeated by Amber and realizes she needs to improve her fighting skills. Violet visits the library, looking for poison recipes. Chapter 7. Violet mixes poisons and uses them to gain an advantage during training. Xaden confronts her about the poisons. They spar again and Violet manages to catch Xaden off guard before he pins her down. He makes her promise not to poison other cadets. Chapter 8. Violet attends the Gauntlet, an intense obstacle course race. She uses her poisons and cunning to beat Amber and win. Xaden seems impressed but hides it. Violet starts to wonder if she can trust him. Chapter 9. Violet bonds with her dragon Tern after passing the Gauntlet. She realizes Xaden has likely known about their bond and hidden it from her. Tern confirms he prevented Violet from bonding earlier to protect her from Xaden. Chapter 10. Violet confronts Xaden about hiding her bond with Tern. Xaden reveals he did it to buy time to decide if Violet can be trusted. Violet is devastated and refuses to speak to him. Chapter 11. A rival cadet immediately accuses V of cheating, trying to get her disqualified. But V cleverly cites obscure rules to justify her innovative techniques. Impressed, her wing leader Xaden declares her the victor, validating V's resilience and cunning. Chapter 12. Violet and her squad complete the presentation, a ritual parade before the dragons. Violet worries about walking so close to the dragons, but her squad places 11th out of 36. Liam Myrie finishes the Gauntlet obstacle course first. Violet gets the Gauntlet patch. Violet sees the dragons lined up and awaiting the cadets, ready to weed out the weak. Chapter 13. It is threshing day, when cadets enter the forested valley and hope to bond with a dragon. 147 cadets remain. Professor Kaori warns them the dragons may let them fall if they deem the cadet unworthy. The cadets spread out to seek their dragons alone. Violet encounters several dragon colors but feels no connection. She climbs a tree and sees other cadets still searching as well. Jack Barlow, Tynan and Oren plot to kill a small golden dragon they deem too weak. Violet races to warn the dragon but injures her ankle. She reaches the dragon in a clearing ahead of the others. When they arrive, a fight ensues where Violet injures Jack and knocks out Oren. Tynan continues attacking until Xaden and his dragon Sagael arrive. Sagael witnessed Violet defending the dragon and called her mate Tern. Tern kills Tynan with fire. Violet is stunned when Tern speaks to her telepathically and demands she become his rider. Chapter 14. Violet mounts Tern despite her injuries and they put on an aerial display for the crowd. Andarna, the golden dragon, also speaks in Violet's mind and says she has chosen Violet too. Violet becomes the first ever rider bonded to two dragons. The dragon leaders, the Empyrean, confer and decide the double bonding will stand. Violet realizes she is now tied to Xaden as well, since their dragons are mates. She learns the unbonded riders will try to kill newly bonded pairs to get their dragons. Xaden says she's now target number 1 for the unbonded. Chapter 25. It is time for the prize trip to visit an active rider outpost on the border. While there, Violet is happily reunited with her sister Mira. In a battle strategy exercise, tensions rise between Dane and Xaden over who is in charge. Mira intervenes, lecturing Dane on putting his ambitions over the squad. She also warns Violet that Xaden can't be trusted. Violet argues Xaden has been helping train her. Mira remains unconvinced. Chapter 26. Violet reflects on the complications of her bond with Xaden and missing him after only a couple days apart. Their dragon separation limits how far they can be from each other. When Xaden arrives at the outpost, Violet is distracted by him. During a demonstration of Xaden's powers, Mira watches him warily. Violet realizes Mira sees Xaden as a threat. Violet tries to reassure Mira but Mira questions how well Violet really knows Xaden and his past. Chapter 27. Violet and friends visit Rhiannon's nearby village against the rules. An attack comes to the outpost. Mira makes Violet and Xaden flee to safety with the other cadets, over Violet's protests. Violet is devastated to leave Mira behind in danger. She begs Xaden to stop so they can help but he refuses, saying her safety is most important. Xaden kisses Violet before putting her on Tern to make their escape. Violet is heartbroken, feeling she has betrayed Mira. Chapter 28. Violet learns her sister Mira survived an attack on her outpost at Montserrat. Desperate for news, Violet waits outside Professor Markham's office until he confirms Mira is alive. Chapter 29. Violet continues training to wield lightning with Professor Carr. She grows closer to Xaden but he refuses to admit he has feelings for her or see a future for them as a couple. Chapter 30. On Reunification Day, Violet attends a formal ball where she dances with Dane while wearing Xaden's flight jacket. King Tori confronts Violet about keeping an eye on Xaden, Fen Riorson's son. Chapter 31. Sexual tension between Violet and Xaden finally boils over during a private training session. They give in to their passion and Violet tells Xaden she loves him. Chapter 32. On a training exercise for the War Games, Violet encounters Griffin riders who warn her of an impending attack. She realizes Xaden has been supplying the Griffin riders with weapons. Chapter 33. Violet confronts Xaden about his secrecy. He reveals the Griffin riders are being attacked by Venin, mythical monsters long thought to not exist. Violet agrees to keep his secret for now. Chapter 34. Violet, Xaden and their squad fly to defend a Poromish village from the Venin. Violet wields powerful lightning but struggles to control it. Liam is killed saving Violet. Chapter 35. During the battle, Violet is stabbed with a poisoned blade. Xaden flies her to a secret location to save her life, the ruins of Orisha, revealed to have never been burned but hidden. Chapter 36. Violet wakes with amnesia in Orisha. Xaden cares for her, but she remembers his betrayal when she sees the view of the village below. Violet demands answers from Xaden. Chapter 37. Violet's memories return. She agrees to join Xaden fighting the Venom but tells him she can no longer trust him with her heart. Violet learns her brother Brennan, long thought dead, is alive in Orisha. Chapter 38. Violet reunites with her brother Brennan, who has been in hiding with the other rebellion survivors. Though hurt by Xaden's secrecy, Violet agrees to stay and fight the Venom. Chapter 39. Xaden's Pav. He waits anxiously for Violet to wake from her coma, blaming himself for her injuries. Violet wakes and agrees to join their cause but says she cannot trust Xaden anymore. He vows to win back her trust and heart. Chapter 15. Violet attends her first flight lesson but cannot stay seated on Tyren's back. He uses magic to keep her in place instead of letting her learn. Violet insists she must learn to fly without aid. She falls repeatedly trying to stay mounted during maneuvers. Later, Dane confronts Violet about her inability to fly properly. Their argument turns bitter as he expresses continual doubt in her abilities. Violet ends their friendship, furious he still thinks she won't survive despite everything she's endured. Chapter 16. Violet does her archives duty, missing her former scribe squad. Her friend Jacinia cannot find the folklore book Violet remembers from childhood containing tales of wyverns. After flight class, Violet watches an unbonded cadet's signet power manifest as mind-reading. It is dangerous, so he is killed immediately. Violet realizes her own signet power has not manifested yet. She learns riders who do not manifest a power die when the magic consumes them. Chapter 17. Violet dreams of her father saying she is not meant to be a rider like her mother. Tarn wakes her frantically. 7 unbonded cadets including Oren are in her room, determined to kill her and bond Tarn. They fight and Oren strangles Violet. Suddenly, Andrena's power manifests and freezes everyone except Violet. Here is a longer, more detailed summary of the given chapters. Chapter 18. Violet goes to the archives to return books and pick up requests. She reminisces about how the archives were like a second home to her growing up. She greets her friend Jacinia, now a first-year scribe. Jacinia asks how Violet is doing in the Riders Quadrant and says she was worried when she heard Violet was forced into that quadrant. Violet says she is bonded and happy. Jacinia is surprised and worried that Violet could die as a rider. Violet assures her she is getting used to that risk. Jacinia goes to gather the book requests. Violet wishes she could give Jacinia a hug but knows scribes must remain stoic. Jacinia returns with the requests and Violet asks if she can find a book of fables Violet's father used to read to her as a child. Jacinia doesn't know of it but will look. Chapter 19. It is the morning after the attack on Violet in her room. Captain Fitzgibbons reads the death roll, including Oren Seifert. Violet is unsympathetic since Oren tried to kill her. Violet goes to class with her friends, discussing the attack. Dane sees the bruises on Violet's neck and is upset she didn't tell him about the attack. Violet counters that he didn't believe her about Amber's involvement, so why would she tell him more? Their argument continues as Dane tries to warn Violet against trusting Xaden. Violet argues she has no choice given their dragon bond. Xaden interrupts, calling out Amber publicly for her role in the attack. Amber denies it, but the dragons share Violet's memory with the other riders. Amber is declared guilty. Despite Violet's pleas for mercy, Xaden executes Amber by fire. Violet is troubled by how easily Amber was condemned. Chapter 22. Violet finally begins channeling power from Tarn. She experiences pain and an overwhelming flood of power and desire. She realizes the lustful feelings are coming from Taryn through their bond. She flees her room to avoid acting on the feelings, encountering Xaden outside. He explains what is happening and helps Violet learn to shield against Tyren's bond. After,